Thank you for joining me for my Substack. I take this time now, half an hour a day. I think it's been every day for the past more than a week now, because it's important for us to talk about what's happening in America. Yesterday, I talked a lot about Bad Bunny's halftime show and how it was really just a huge, huge, huge statement about where we are in America and what we need to focus on and emphasize. Let me shut this off. Hang on. What we need to really focus on and emphasize is right in front of us. And I have Together We Are America. That was something that it was written on the football. So the monks made it to DC. Yippee! Where's my bell? Yay, monks making it to DC. That'll shift some things. Those monks have been amazing. So today I want to talk about evil. You're telling me about the opposite of evil, which is what the monks are demonstrating. They're demonstrating peace. And they have really made a very long, treacherous journey, and they're walking. And you're at the church where they landed. It was amazing. Good for you, Hope. That's awesome. It was incredible. And actually, now that you brought up the monks, I'm so glad they made it to DC. I'm looking forward to seeing the videos of them. Oh, and you even meditated with them. I was watching the Super Bowl halftime show on Sunday, and then a little bit later afterwards, I was watching videos of the monks walking for peace. And what is really clear to me and glaringly obvious is how much people want peace and how much people want a message of love and unity. And that desire isn't a small thing. There was a saying that was going on around like the nuclear arms race protests, and there was a saying going on then. There was a quote that somebody said, I'm sure you could look it up. People want peace so much that the wars will stop and governments will just finally give it to them. I don't know if we're that, optimistic nowadays. They were talking about how we want peace and not violence. Yep, makes sense to me. Yeah, exactly that. And I think it's evident. I think we have evidence of it everywhere. That kind of thing blows me away. We all can perceive it. There's not one of us here who cannot perceive. Like yesterday I talked about, side by side, juxtapositioned side by side. If you look at the energy of the Bad Bunny show and then you look at the energy of the MAGA show, not even talking about right or wrong or judgment. It's completely different. It's palpable. And I know that there are more people who are amazing and more loving people than not loving people. A while back, I don't know if I have the book here. I have a few bookcases here. I read a book, and I'm sure you've heard about this book because there was an author. I don't know if he's still around, but his name was Scott Peck, and he wrote a book a long time ago called The Road Less Traveled. And Scott Peck also wrote a book after that, and people were taken aback, like, why are you writing about this topic? Called People of the Lie. And I really do want to speak to what's in that book. Because in People of the Lie, Scott Peck, who was a psychologist back in the 70s, I believe, encountered people for whom there was no treatment and really no cure. And he made the case, even though people were like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you writing this book? You just wrote this really self-motivating book, this self-help book, this wonderful book called The Road Less Traveled that was really inspiring. Why did you write a book called The People of the Lie? And the reason that he wrote the book was because he believed that it was dangerous for human societies to not acknowledge the presence of evil. And it's a startling book. It's a disturbing book because he gives real life cases of evil parents and evil children and what happens to them and how it just kind of perpetuates throughout society. But we have to view it as if it's real. And what I'm seeing in this country is that we are grappling with it. And you see it when people are afraid to call out those who are exhibiting evil behavior. And I mean demonic evil behavior, whatever that word means to you. People are afraid to call it out. We see it all the time. And many of us in our democracy, yeah, like Donnie and his parents, yeah. In our democracy, we feel like we're going to be stepping on toes if we call it out. And we get frustrated with people that are Democrats. You know, what's people's number one biggest gripe? They're not tough enough on these MAGAs. And I concur. They're not tough enough on these MAGAs. We're seeing a little bit more than that nowadays. And why is that? Might it be, and I'm just going to ask the rhetorical question, that if they actually were aware, if they weren't taught that, there's no such thing as a devil and there's no hell, and, and who knows about hell, whether it exists. But, and I did hear a representative at one of the hearings today, MacGyver, who was prisoned by ICE for doing her duty as a representative to oversee the detention centers. She put it to somebody that was in the hearing. I don't know who it was. She asked him if he thought that maybe he might be going to hell for how he had treated people, how he had allowed people to be treated. Assaulted, dragged by their hair, children held hostage, ripped away from their families, all of it. And I saw it on full display. They were gabbling her, no, that's not acceptable to say those things, right? But at the same time, these people are purporting to be like, they read the Bible. Well, that's what's in the Bible. And that's what she used to state her case. But they wouldn't even let her talk about, like, the word hell. They thought it was out of line to use the word hell. Well, if the shoe fits, if they're behaving as if hell is a real place, that they know they're going there, then what's the problem with bringing it up? So there it is again. Denying that evil exists, denying that hell exists. And we know that the way that people are being treated in this country is by ICE and DHS, is straight out of the Nazi playbook, is just what the Gestapo did. And we know that Adolf was into some very, very, I don't know if you know this, but if you do some research and you do a deep dive, and if you can bear to find out what was going on, if you really go into details about what the Nazis were doing, right? It's extremely evil. They created like incubators for evil. I don't think that we're in a time like that where human civilization hasn't evolved and advanced, that many people would get sucked down the evil trail. Because it was a lot of, they took drugs and they did all kinds of things that expanded, that accelerated the evil. I don't think that there are enough, and I say that cautiously, I don't think that there are enough people that would devolve to that many being sucked into evil behavior. There are less now, but no, there are no promises that we're not going to, as a world, go back down that road. It's a slippery slope. I just believe in my bones that I think that human civilization has evolved since then. Look at Germany. Germany turned itself around, as we can turn ourselves around. I just feel it's exceedingly important, like Scott Peck, who wrote that book, People of the Lie, and I recommended reading from my eyes. I think we have to know the enemy. And I think that we can be courageous enough as to call our representatives and say, this is evil. They are stealing children. They're stealing innocent children and throwing them in concentration camps. And that is what they are. The water that they're given to drink, and the keepers there are telling them, oh, just drink some water, right? We don't know what they're eating. Reportedly, because some of these children are writing, I don't know where they're getting these things that they're writing, and they shouldn't be in there, right? They're saying that the water, they want to drink the water, but it makes them sick, and that the water is making everybody sick. And we've heard, if you're kind of keep paying attention, you can see and you hear these reports that the water that they're drinking is either toilet water and or water from the showers that they've taken. We have to get real about what's going on. We cannot sugarcoat evil. We cannot pretend it doesn't exist. I know that we don't like to think about things that are scary and unpleasant. I don't think that we do. There's just a real danger to not thinking about things that are happening, that are scary, that are terrifying and unpleasant. Yeah, anyone who knows about child development knows that treating children like this is bad. And even little Liam, he's traumatized. And we heard from one of the representatives that went into that, what do they call it, the detention center. Several of them, I think Jasmine Crockett reported this too. Yeah, she did, that they went in before they had gotten him released. They went in to see if little Liam was okay. Now, there's not just little Liam. He was relatively lucky that they got him out. But they were trying to talk to him, and he wouldn't talk. He would only sleep. And you know that these kids are cooped up in these. It's not like they probably have like heat or adequate electricity or adequate food or adequate space to run around. They're in prison for nothing. And some of you may have seen some of the hearings with people that are in higher positions. The Nazi generals, we'll call them, just because. And Dan Goldman did say this is fascism. Like it's almost like they're going, the others on the other side, they're going, no, you can't be saying that. You can't be calling us Nazis. Oh, you have to stop calling us Gestapo. That's why our ICE officers get violent. And they're defending the behavior of these ICE officers. And they're acting, these people that work for ICE, that are overseeing ICE and DHS, are posing as if they're attempting to pose as if they're law enforcement abiding by the law. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. This is the position that they're taking. That Lyons guy, whatever role he's playing, he's one of the higher ups, calling it law enforcement and refusing to acknowledge that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were shot in cold blood by ICE officers for no reason. There aren't any investigations going on. And when asked, Lyons was asked if he would be willing to apologize for the family for slandering their loved one after they were executed by ICE. Guess what he said? Can anybody guess what he said when he was asked if he would like to speak to the family and apologize for slandering their loved one who was executed by ICE and DHS? Anybody? Class? What did he say when he was asked if he would apologize to the families? Let me help you out. He said no. He just said no. That is what we call a monster. And the more this goes on, yes, you're right. You're right. Yep. He said no, that he wouldn't apologize. They're not training long enough. Yeah. Okay. Karen, you fell into the trap a little bit. And let me, I'm not picking on you. I'm going to make a point from what you're saying. They aren't training long enough. I couldn't understand why there are so many. Okay. So I'm going to back up. They shouldn't even exist. DHS in its current form is not like, and I did hear these evil ones go back and say, well, Biden, it's Biden's fault, right? Blame Biden. That's the thing. That's the thing now, right? Blame Biden. Blame it on Biden. Blame it on Biden, right? They have to bring that in. Demonizing a really good man and probably one of the best presidents in American history. Yeah. They shouldn't even exist. And I really do feel that it's partly due to our unwillingness to call it what it is. A country that has failed its children. This is what I feel is a failed country. I wrote a Substack about this a while back. It was the one with little Liam, the picture of little Liam. I can repost it if you want me to. And that's what I said. America has failed. And now we have to do something about it because we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here and the rest of the world is looking on like, what? No, really, America? You have a so-called president. I'm saying so-called president. Maybe in other countries they call Trump the president, but in my mind, he's not. Attacking the United States athletes that are competing in the Winter Olympics. What? Yeah, we haven't dealt with the other kids in cages from his last term. I have a song that I wrote, and that's the very first line of the song. It's called Rise Up. I should record that one too. And the first line is, I can't shake the vision of the children in those cages. I played it at one of Marianne Williamson's campaign events in New Hampshire. Never call him the president. He's a demon, that's for sure. And now what we have going on right now in our country, in our denial, in our collective denial that this is evil, is we have a person who's squatting in the White House, who we found out today, as far as we know now. Guess how many times his name appears in the Epstein documents, files? Does anybody know? Class? Guess how many times we found out his name appears in the Epstein files? I think there's a little delay in the chat, so I'll give you a little time. So we have that. The UK dealt with it very swiftly as soon as they found some of their own. Now it's 1 million. 38,000 was yesterday. 1 million times. That's the news today. Yep. 1,000,000. 1,000,000 times. As he keeps deflecting and saying, what's her name from CNN? Caitlin Collins should smile. Are you still talking about Epstein? Yeah. Mr. Evil incarnate. Let's not forget. I'm going to tell you something about the demonic. I'm just going to say it. That AI generated video of him dumping diarrhea shit as an Air Force fighter pilot, dumping diarrhea shit on the American people. Right there. That's a sign of the demonic right there. I just happen to know about these things. Saying that it's all fake news. Yeah. What he did with the Obamas. Tell me that racism, that bigoted racism, that vitriolic hatred, the violent stochastic terrorism that he just spews all over the place all the time. Tell me that's not evil. So there's that, the Epstein files, and ICE and DHS, what they're doing to the American people, to children. And these evil ones are blaming it on, oh, because we have to get the immigrants because they're, I don't know, they're criminals and rapists and thugs. They project everything that somebody else is doing onto the immigrants. This is Nazism. We've had a Nazi problem in the United States since the 1930s. It's come back to visit us. It's come back to knock on all of our collective heads. It's come back because things that aren't processed, revealed, and dealt with don't go away. They don't go away. It's the Trump files now. Good one, Thomas. Yeah, it is the Trump files now. You're right. That's a very good point. Probably always was. And we saw Howard Lutnick today, if you watched anything of the news, of the hearings, lie to everybody's face. Do you know that in the Catholic faith they call Satan the father of lies? There's a reason for that. I can't even shake that whenever I look at Donald Trump, the father of lies. And you know who else lies all the time? Like Alexei Navalny, his book is behind me. Putin never stops lying. That's what Navalny would say about him all the time. Putin never stops lying. And now what we have on our hands is a Putin-style, a Kremlin-style secret military police force that is huge. They get 47 days of training. Who the hell knows what they're training, what it is? I'd like to know what their training is. And get this one. They're taking Amazon-style size warehouses as we speak and converting them into concentration camps. So if we think that this is a time to be silent, think again. Because evil needs to be called out, not sugar-coated. It needs to be identified for what it is, not distracted from. This is what it is. They know in Germany what it is. The generations that lived it are passing away, but they passed on their history and they have a museum so that they don't forget, so that future generations don't have that information hidden from them, like this regime is attempting to do about slavery and about what was done to the Native Americans. All that is that's our history. Who was it that said those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it? Well, it's our destiny to stop it. Now, saying all this, I don't want to be misunderstood in that it doesn't mean that I don't feel optimistic, because I do, about us being able to turn this around and get them all out of there, and like the Nuremberg trials, hold them accountable. Just following orders is not good enough. This is a lawless regime who's leading the country, or running it into the ground right now as we speak, is an international criminal enterprise. The Kremlin got in. The United States of America is starting to look a little bit like Russia, and we have to stop the bleeding literally and figuratively right now. So we have to stop what we're doing, because nothing is more important. And we all have to do something. We all have to do something. I'm very aware that we've had a racism problem since the beginning of this country. There's not one cell in my body that's not aware of that. Not one cell in my body that's not aware of that. And that's true for, I think, most of us. We can do better. It's up to each generation to do better. This is a backsliding, but I have observed in my life, and just looking at history, so oftentimes that the pendulum, like the whole trajectory of things, the pendulum's this way, right? Extreme. And then, like, it's really extreme right now before it swings to the polar opposite. And that's where we're headed. But we can only go there if we all grab the reins and say, we're going to save this nation from this darkness. We're not going to look at our history and say, oh, we deserved it. Look at how terrible we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That doesn't help anybody. Like, when you hear somebody say something like, this is who America is, that does not help us in any way, manner, shape, or form. That is just discouraging. It is. It's like saying, oh, well, this is what America has been, so that means we're just going to keep being that. I mean, that's how I interpret that. And I have my own ways of interpreting things. Like when somebody says, and this is my pet peeve I always talk about, when I hear pro-democracy channels say things like, with huge, huge audiences, we should be worried. Oh, yeah, we got to be worried. Oh, should be terrified. We should have, shivers running up and down our spines of fear. No, this takes courage. It takes courage. And courage is contagious. And courage is the only thing that saves us, that's ever saved us from evil. Courage. When the troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, they knew they were charging into their death. Most of them knew that. It takes courage. We're not being asked to storm the beaches of Normandy. We're being asked to stand up for our brothers and sisters in the United States of America. And we are on our way there. It's just that we have to kind of grasp the gravity of the moment that we're in. It's very, very, very serious. So let's do the work. Let's keep our emotions and our thoughts high if we can. We won't be able to do that all the time. This is a devastating time that we're in the United States of America. You can use what I picked up from Ben Meisalis. You can use the impeach and remove the felon now as an affirmation. And just keep focusing on that, and just know that there is support. You saw it at the halftime show of the Super Bowl. There are so many more of us than there are of them, and together we can do this. Together we can knock out fascism. And a shout out to Midas Touch again. There's a shirt that I own, a long sleeve t-shirt that says knock out fascism. Let's do it. And the monks coming to DC gave you hope. And definitely, yes, they do. They have a visceral effect on you. So definitely don't overlook that, because that's truth. That's real. Love is real. Only love is real. This is all like they're so weak and they're actually terrified. And it's when we show up strong and with great courage and in huge numbers that they cower. You'll see. You'll see. And we're part of that. And it's a privilege to be here at this time in American history. Together we are America. If anyone has any questions, you can throw them up there, and if not, I'll just say goodbye for now, and I'll come back tomorrow. Please share this Substack live if you can. I am making an effort to grow the Substack channel, and also make sure you read my articles and share my articles. I really pour my heart into the articles that I write here, and it's really cathartic and it's good for me to do. So thank you so much. Keep the faith. I'll see you a little bit later. I'll upload a video on YouTube. Okay, and I like to say, namaste. Have a great night. See you.